Well, my next guest's parents are missing, part of the many taken hostage by Hamas. Sharone Lifschitz's mother and father, both aged in their 80s, were dragged from their kibbutz in Near Oz by terrorists. But had the abductors taken a moment to see them as anything other than Jews, they would have known that these people were not the enemy. Sharone says her father was a friend to the Palestinians, taking time out from his retirement to drive them to and from hospitals in and out of Gaza. We've had to blur these images of her family as obviously Sharone doesn't want any retribution because of her speaking out. She's desperately hoping for their safe return. Sharone is in London and she joins me now. Thank you so much, Sharone, for speaking with me at this very difficult time. Tell me the story of how you learned that your parents in their 80s had been taken hostage in this terror attack.
I was on a way out for a day out in New York when I checked and found out on a news feed that there's a flare-up in the region, and this is kind of something that repeats itself. So I called my mom and I couldn't get hold of her, and I thought maybe she's away. I called my brother and he then told me that the situation is very bad, that they've crossed the border and that there is Hamas militants in the kibbutz. This is a nightmare scenario that all of us are always petrified of, but in the hours that followed, we realized that there's no army there. There wasn't any army there for 7-8 hours. They've made of it as their own. We couldn't get old, but we could hear stories from other people. People are begging for their life when they are ill and injured. Shooting. About 2 hours later, I saw footage that aired in Al Jazeera of a journalist standing in front of the camera just behind my parents' house, a place that is so beautiful and so full of love. And he was just standing there in broad daylight, and behind him were Palestinian militant. I don't want to say Palestinian, I want to say Hamas militants. And people were just all over the place, machine guns shooting. And then we just had very anxious hours hearing about people that we know all our life. We are a very small community. The small group of people that are meant to protect the kibbutz for any infiltration were rumored to all be dead. These are people I grew up with since I was a baby. This is, and we had so little knowledge. We couldn't, the army was not there. There was no one there to help.
No one to protect them. And I mean, this is part of, obviously it's the terrorists' complete fault that all of this happened, but obviously part of what's going to have to be examined in the aftermath is why there was no intelligence about this attack. Israelis' intelligence is meant to be the best in the world, and why there was this operational failure, why there was no one on the ground protecting the communities, why it took so long for any of the IDF to actually get down to these areas. I mean, we're hearing figures that 160 or 200 hostages were taken. We don't know the exact number, but the amount of time it would take for the Hamas terrorists to get them across the border. I mean, these are the questions you obviously are asking now.
This is a carefully planned, premeditated massacre. We have to understand. This is a level of cruelty that's bestowed upon my people that I cannot begin to comprehend. We would be there and we would bury the dead, and we have to think what we do with that place because it's destroyed. It's built with so much love over so many years. We held it together. We didn't have our own gardens. We had shared gardens, and they were just enjoyed by all of us and our visitors and everybody. My parents spent their whole life building the place. My mom, but all this, I have to go back again and again. There are people out there, you know, these people are still there. We cannot start thinking about the dead. We cannot start thinking about the trauma. We have to put all our efforts. We call upon the leaders of the world, the leaders of the Arab world, to work towards releasing these hostages. These are elderly women and children and men that are over 65. My parents are 85 and 83. They literally had to disconnect my mom from her oxygen to take her. What a level of hatred are we accepting? What is acceptable to us as human beings? And we have to now work ceaselessly to bring those we can bring back to the family. We have lost so many are dead, such devastation. These are our hope. You have to help us return them. There should be a humanitarian corridor taking them out. The leaders of the Arab world should come together and work as one to prevent any further destruction.
Yeah, and that's why you're speaking out now, Sharone. I know how difficult this is for you. I can see how difficult it is for you to do this media interview, but you want there to be pressure on the Arab leaders to pressure Hamas and any other leaders to release the hostages like your parents aged 82 and 83 and 85. Sharone, thank you so much for your time.